Hi boys and girls, Mrs. Servose back again. It's nice to see you all. I missed you. So the last time that we got to talk about some stories, I taught you a little song about fiction stories. Now before we review that song, do you remember? What is a fiction story? A fiction story. Oh, I know I've heard that word before. Fiction. Fiction. I'm doing that bunny face for the letter F. Fiction. That's right. It's like a fairy tale. Fiction and fairy tale both start with F. So, fiction. Are fiction stories real? Do you think they're real? No, they're not real. They're made-up stories. The author that wrote a fiction story was actually a narrative writer. He or she wanted to entertain you. So they made a fiction story that's very silly. Sometimes it's magical. Sometimes it's made up and silly. Sometimes it teaches us a lesson, but it has a story with 3 parts. So fiction, fairy tale, and they're often fake or made up stories. All those words start with F. That's how I remember what a fiction story is. Now, the opposite of fiction is nonfiction. Nonfiction are books that have facts and they make our brains smart. But fiction story is what we're going to talk about today. Fiction stories are the books that make us smile, that make us laugh, that make us feel something in our hearts, and it helps us paint a picture in our minds. So fiction stories are very fun, especially in kindergarten. We read so many fiction stories. I have some examples with me today. Maybe you recognize this story. Pinkalicious or Purplicious. Now, can you actually turn pink or purple after you eat food? No. So this is a fiction story. Fiction stories are made up, they're fake. The author wrote them to entertain you. Okay, so that's one example. Pinkalicious or Purplicious, maybe you've heard of this story before. Oftentimes, stories have cartoon pictures in them. Fiction stories usually have cartoons or drawings. There's an illustrator that draws the pictures for a fiction story. So you're going to see some silly drawings that are colorful in a fiction story. Just like this one, there was an old lady who swallowed a chick. I know a lot of my kindergartners know this type of story, and it is a fiction story. So it is fake, it's made up. An old lady would never swallow so many things. It's impossible. You'd go to the hospital. So that's what makes it fiction or made up. And I also have a story here that's about a caterpillar. And he's sad because his friends are making fun of him. They all talk in the story. They live in a garden. And they're all friends and they talk. Well, can that happen in real life? No. This is a fiction story. It's made up, it's kind of like a fairy tale, and it is to entertain us, to make us laugh, or to teach us a lesson. So this is fiction also. So these are examples of fiction stories. They don't have any glossary or index or special words that are in big bold print. There's no facts in the book. It doesn't teach us anything in our brains, like how many teeth a shark have. That would be a non-fiction book, okay? So today I'm going to retell you that song that I taught you. It has the 3 parts of a fiction story in it. Because my question for you today is, what are the parts of a fiction story? And last time I made a video for you, I told you about those 3 parts, and the song went like this. Character setting and plot. Character setting and plot. The parts of a fiction story. Character setting and plot. So what are those 3 parts? I like that song because it helps me remember the 3 parts of a fiction story. The characters. Let's talk about that word. What does that word mean? And I'm going to draw a picture up here to show you what the word characters means. Well, the word characters just means the people in the story. You were right if you guessed that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw, a person or an animal. So I'm just going to draw a stick figure person because a character can be a boy, it can be a girl. So there's a character right there. Now, the character can also be an animal. It can also be maybe a cat or a dog. So I'll draw a cat here also. So it could be an animal. It also could be a silly made-up character, like a monster, or a dragon, or it could be even something totally made up that you've never heard of before. The author can really do whatever they want in a fiction story. So I might also draw like a big, fuzzy monster with some silly eyes. Okay, you can even you could write a book about a germ or anything, a virus for heaven's sakes. So a character could be anything that's acting in the story, that's doing things, that's engaged in the events in the story. So if they're doing things in the story, they are a character. A person, an animal, or a made-up object. Okay? So those are the characters in the story. What is this word? The setting. Setting. The setting in the story is the place where the story takes place. So if you know the setting, you also know the time too. The time is part of the setting also. So I'm going to draw, to help us remember what the setting is, I'm going to draw a clock. Okay? Because the setting can be the time or the place. Or the time and the place. So here's my clock. And I'm also going to draw a place, which in my example here, I'm just going to draw a house, okay? Because a house will tell me something special about the place, but it doesn't always have to be a house. It can also be a garden, it could be a forest, it could be on a mountain, it could be, the setting could be all different places. A lot of times stories take place in a house, so that's why I drew that there. The time and the place is the setting, and time can be anything. Time can be springtime, it could be wintertime, it could be summer, it could be fall, could be any of those times of the year, or it could also be the morning time or the nighttime. What is the time of the story that you're reading? And then the place is somewhere that the story is happening. What's in the background pictures of the story? What do you see in the background? That would be the setting of the story, okay? And then the plot is the problem. The problem sometimes can be stressful in a fiction story. Like someone gets in trouble or somebody doesn't know how to make a friend. That's a problem. So I'm going to draw the plot here. The plot usually has some feelings tied to it. So you know what I'm going to draw? I'm going to draw a happy face and a sad face to show you that a plot can be a problem that makes someone first happy and then they get sad or they get upset. So there's lots of feelings in the plot of a story. Lots of different feelings, okay? Let's make that a little bit darker so you can see it. Oh, my markers aren't working good. Let's try this one. There we go. Here's a happy face, and here's a sad face. Now, a problem can be anything. Somebody lost something, somebody misses their mom, somebody might think something scary is going to happen. Like in the Fletcher story that I taught you last time, Fletcher was thinking that it was going to snow, but really it was blossoms. So what I want to read to you today, this book is called No, No, Gnome. How many of you know what a lawn gnome is? What's a lawn gnome? A lawn gnome is something you might find in a garden. A lawn gnome has a red hat, and it usually is kind of fake. It's like a statue that sits in your garden. You might see these maybe at a Grammy's house, or maybe your mom or dad has one out in their yard. So a lawn gnome can be found outside someone's house in a garden. And this book has a problem in it, and I want you to see if you know what the plot is and the setting, and then we're going to make something fun to help us remember the character, setting, and plot in this story. No, no, gnome. No, no, gnome. I bet you this gnome is going to be pretty naughty. I'm going to move a little bit closer so I can show you the pictures. Okay. The students at Green Thumb Elementary had been working hard on their garden all year long. Finally, it was almost ready for harvest. Everyone was excited. So they made a garden and they're ready to go pick their vegetables. Especially Gnome. He was excited. Okay, that's what a gnome looks like. Kind of looks like Santa Claus with a red hat. As the students headed outside, Mr. Waters assigned each of them a job or task. The kids quickly got to work. Looks like they're working hard on their garden. At first, Gnome was helpful, but then, oh boy, do you think he's going to be helpful? No, no, Gnome! Oh, look, he's picking all of the vegetables from the garden. Even the little worm is scared. Mr. Waters suggested Gnome try something else, but pretty soon, no, no, Gnome! So they gave him the garden hose. Oh boy, that was a mistake. He's not following directions. Mr. Waters gave Gnome one last chance. All Gnome had to do was stand still and hold the basket for the garden clippings. So all he had to do was stand still. Could he do it? But Gnome didn't even last 1 minute. There's the garden gnome all over the garden doing lots of naughty things. Mr. Waters sent Gnome back to the classroom. Oh no, he had to go inside while everyone else was left with that mess. That's not fair. When the other kids returned, nobody said hello to Gnome. At recess, no one would play with him, and at the end of the day, no one said goodbye. That's very sad. Poor Gnome, he's not going to have any friends. But he didn't make good choices. Gnome was blue. Blue means sad. So he had some feelings. Oh, what did we talk about with feelings? Oh, that's right, the plot. The plot has feelings. Maybe this is the plot of the story. Gnome is sad because he didn't make good choices. Look at him go. Oh, what could he do to show his friends that he was sorry? Sorry, I skipped a page. What could he do to show his friends that he was sorry? Oh, I have an idea. Look at the pictures. Is he making good choices now? Oh, look, he's watering the plants. He's saying hello to the bees. He's picking and checking on the tomatoes, carrying plants around. Now he's being a good little gnome. The next day, Gnome couldn't wait to get back to the garden. The other kids were dreading it because they thought it was a mess. But when they went outside... Oh, Gnome! Look what you did! Look how proud he is. He put the garden back together and cleaned up his mess. What a good little gnome. The students got to work picking their harvest bounty. Gnome was helpful most of the time. So the garden gnome was helpful again. The end. What a sweet little fiction story. I really like that book. It tells us a lot about the characters, the setting, and the plot. Now remember, you're going to be thinking about who the characters were in that story. You're going to be thinking about what was the time and the place of that story. And what was the feeling or the emotion, the problem of that story? How did it go from happy to sad or from sad to happy? So what I want you to do is I'd like for you to take a piece of paper and I'd like for you to fold it into 3 pieces. So there's a top, okay, fold that piece down and then fold it again. Okay, so you get a straight piece like this, and then you'll open it up, and your page will look like it has 3 parts. And I'd like for you to write the characters at the top of the first page, characters, C-H-A-R-A-C-T-E-R-S, okay? So I wrote characters at the top, then I'm going to write setting in the middle piece of the paper. Okay, see I wrote setting there for you. And then plot will go at the bottom. Plot is P-L-O-T. Plot. P-L-O-T. Okay, this is what your organizer is going to look like. Now, I read you this No Gnome book, and I want you to fill in the pieces that go with this story. Character, setting, and plot. Character, setting, and plot. The parts of a fiction story. Character, setting, and plot. There are 3 parts here, and I think you should know them. Who was the person in this story? What was the setting, the time, and the place? And what was the plot? What was the problem in the story? You should be able to draw it. Use crayons, markers, give it as much detail as you can. I can't wait to see pictures of your beautiful organizers. Thanks for listening, boys and girls. Have a great day.